To the water climbs here in Waterton. So there's actually two nice places to get out of the sun if it's ever a hot summer here in Waterton. The first one is the Pass Creek slabs, and those are actually pretty nice. They've gotten much nicer since people put top rope anchors in. So the slabs should be there. They are right there, and there's a telephone pole. So what we always do for the slabs is we park at this pole out right here, just above the bench, going to Red Rock, and then you catch the sort of horse trail that's going right here, and then let's see how close we can get here. Yeah, and then this is where you'll see the telephone pole that heads over to the golf course. And so what we do is we just start walking right here, and then you get to the tops of the climbs, and there are, I think, currently three anchors, two ring bolts, and one set of normal bolts up top for top roping down in here. If you're going early spring, the river oftentimes will wash right to the base of things. If you're later in the summer, right now we've got a great swimming hole right here. Great place for families because the kids can just go diving in here, and it's about like 7 feet deep and nice little place with a little tiny beach here. This is bigger rocks, so it's not as friendly for kids, but the swimming's great in the summer. Just watch out for all the bears that are obviously coming down. Now, the way we normally get down to the base here is right there at this tree. Maybe I'll even be able to. Oh, Google, you're so nice. So let's see what we can see here. Yeah, so there's the telephone pole. Right here is where that anchor is that you're going to go to. And then this tree is still standing. So we normally cut down right here. And I'll show it to you up here on this map. So you just get down right here, and then if there's someone's already gone down before, there'll be an established trail that gets down right to here. So it's sort of side hills, and then just try to keep from doing much erosion. So you'll want to make sure if there's no footprints here that there's a decent trail, not just for going down, but also for going up. So we get one path and minimize erosion. And then you just head through the bushes down to these rocks, and then you're over at the slabs and the ledge at its base. The other thing you can do to get there is you can also, if you really want to, you can just park here at Pass Creek and then start walking up along the river, cross the river a few times to get to the slabs. And that's basically where you're going. Now the slabs are not great for like experienced climbers. They're super low angle. All the climbs will feel about the same level of difficulty. So once you've done one, you're set for all of them. But if you're new and you don't have your great footwork, always go work it out on slabs. Now all these routes, slab routes, were led on gear. I remember leading them on like a sort of thin lost pin and a number 2 or 1 stopper, so really thin gear. There's not that much to distinguish the climbs from each other. So right here, this climb really hasn't been bolted. Well, the other ones were just a few years ago. So this was, we called it sort of the right scramble, right up there, right route, something like that. So that would actually be a decent one to sort of bolt up as a beginner lead. I wouldn't go all the way to the top because it gets kind of bushy here and there's some ants' nest, but I think part way would make a great sort of beginner climb. Let's see what else there is. This was the block we always used to go up to dump gear in. Now that things are bolted, it's a little bit doesn't matter as much where the natural gear is. So this used to be sort of the right-hand side route that we would head up, place some gear in there, and then hope for the best up top. And then you could go up the left side, sort of placing some crappy gear. Now it's bolted. I think the main route that people do now is right here up in the middle. That's actually a really nice one. So I think it's probably the best climb here is that bolted one. And then there's one that just goes up this overlap, cuts left, and then you're heading up there. See if there's any more pictures to give you an idea. And again, it will feel hard the first time you do it, but then just trust your feet. And great for kids. The only thing you want to watch out for kids is oftentimes they'll be too light to lower down. So you don't want them up to the top and then freaking out and crying. So always do a test lower, like you probably should anytime you're actually top roping and testing the rope. And what you'll want to do is either just tie a master knot so your beaners are laying so the rope doesn't go in behind and get stuck in the rock. So it's sort of laying the other way, so the gates are facing straight out of the rock. Or you can actually, if you got really light kids, just put a pulley that's a gear rated and maybe even a backup on it. So then it pulls real easy. Just make sure you're not belaying heavier climbers. So that's the trick for keeping it as kids. Let's see if there's any other. Oh, here you get a better idea. There's a nice ledge. Used to be a nice raspberry bush here before the fire came. And you'll see this creek coming up here in the springtime. And it changes course every few years. So there's the one just left of that block. Let me see what that one's called. The left crack. Yeah, there's the left crack cut up here. And there's the main route, Lost Yaks, from a kayaking epic I had on the river in flood one year. And then the, what's that one? The Lay Black block starts right up there. So that's Pass Creek. Sort of, you're looking at sort of 5'4", maybe 5'6" climbing area. I still like the area, even though it's super easy. Be nice if we got one more route sort of up this pinnacle here. So I've looked at that, but just have to get out, and don't get out as much as I used to. The other, let's see if there's any other interesting pictures. There's the top and Anne, my wife. And you can see the nice ledge there. So you can always just throw your ropes down right from the top from those anchors and get a good day out. Now the other water area is the Wishbone. And this one had been climbed in the 80s as some really bold leads by Paul Sloan and Craig Albright. And they had spent weeks sort of working up their courage, and they get a bit higher each time. So you basically hop in your canoe or kayak or get your park boat that you can get access to, and you get down here to the Wishbone Beach. There's a little dock you'll see, and you set your boats down right here. And then if you're just top roping it, so lowering a climber down, assuming that they can get up with no problem, most people don't do that, but just imagine they can if you've got a way of securing your anchor. Then right in there, right here, is there you see it from this other angle. There are the Wishbone climbs. Now, these were bolted before the deep water soloing got really popular. Back in early 2000s, it would have been the prime place for deep water soloing. People usually go cliff jumping here. A bit too tall for me. I like my back and being able to move my legs to do that. So you park at the beach. Now, right here is the first climb. This one I bolted after the wardens put the bolts in this right-hand stuff that Paul and Craig had climbed on gear. So do those on gear and see what you think. I'm just finding the names for all these climbs. Okay, there we go. So Poison Bear, oh yeah, that's what it's called, is right down here, and that's right off the water. It's about 5 feet deep, so you can use a boat to get to it. You'll have an anchor on the boat for the first climb, so you can get to that baby. Let's see if there's some pictures here. Wishbone. There's Poison Bear. So right here is where that climb is. You'll see a bolt sort of hidden here, and then there'll be another bolt up here, and then there's a piece of gear or two, and then you get up to the top. Can't remember if there's a top anchor. I assume so, but it could also have been off the tree and gear. Let's see if there's any other pictures, just other angles of it. Yeah, and that gives you a sense of scale. There's where the main climbs are that everyone's going to come and do, those nice 10A, 10Bs. Yeah, there's a better look. So there's Poison Bear coming up here and busting through this rock. And there's Castaway and Cast Off over here. Paul and Craig never named any of their routes. That was back in late 70s, early 80s when they were doing everything. And so Paul really had no one to talk to him many times. I don't care. Whatever their climbs. So that was sort of the history of the naming in the areas. Took sort of some of the modern sport climbers off because they were very protective of their names. So that was history back in the 90s. These climbs are really nice climbs. This has a big roof right here with these sort of, you can shove your entire forearm up in these underclings. They're almost like a swallow's nest inside there. So you do those moves to bust to the top, and there's a couple of bolted anchors up top that you should be able to access to drop a rope down. If not, you're clipping the bolt and boat and then climbing up. I remember doing these after the year I was tree planting, sort of 92, I think, and just finding them ridiculously easy in tennis shoes. And I hadn't realized how skinny and I had gotten and how the shape I'd gotten tree planting. So I had always assumed this was a useless area, and glad to be proven otherwise. And so remember, as you do these with all those bolts and you get scared, just remember Paul trying to do these on with a tri-cam placement up here and maybe one nut down low right above the water. Their attitude was, well, if you fall, you sort of got water in there. And I don't think they ever really did, if I remember. And then just around this corner, I don't think I'll have a picture of it, is a gear crack. And that was sort of one way I had used to approach the top of those climbs. Oh, Sloan Slant. That's what it's called. I have to update things. So I don't know if that's this one off to the right or this one straight up. So Poison Bear is over here. Here are those cast away and cast off, those 510s. And then these are the gear routes up here. I do remember soloing one of these. We're in a boat. Oh, set a rope up and heading up here with a pair of sandals, and got harder up top than it looked, and I remember that being an adventure. Anyways, so there should be 2 climbs here. Just the other year I put a bolt up in there. May have missed the placement a little bit. But anyways, you can go off the bolts here to get a rope down on these guys so they get a little bit more traffic and that rock gets less sharp. And there are gear routes. The gear isn't as good as it looks. It sort of thins out to this weird flared crack. So do bring some tri-cams and then just realize you'll be gets thinner up at the top when one wouldn't expect it to. So that is the Wishbone area that you see here. Quite nice. There is a bunch of potential bouldering back in here along this old trail that heads to Crypt. I think this thing isn't kept up anymore. And then there is like some more areas that you can see. So there's the actual castaway, cast off. There's like the overhang here that you could do. We had top roped some overhanging roots back up in here, and it's just too much of a pain and too bushy to do anything with. Now getting to the top of the cliff, let's see if I can figure out how people will get to the top of the cliffs there. There's another view from Vimy that you can see that area. Okay, so one of the ways to get to the top to set up a top rope is just at the beach. Just sort of scramble up through this loose, crappy rock, and ideally you'll wear pants because your legs are just going to get bled to death. And then you just get up to the top of the climbs and you're set. So that's the usual way. I haven't found sort of a better way to get up to the top there. And that is it for our 2 water